All
Okay.
right.
Um, I see it's leaning in 53 seconds and counting.
Do you guys have your
I'm so
Instagram?
ready.
I am so
Mm-hmm.
ready. So once we click in, remember I got this. Welcome, welcome to the
But
Beyond the
I go
Sun.
first.
All
I
right,
You
all
got
right.
this.
you know we're live right now and people can still hear y'all, right?
Oh,
Oh, okay, just
Where's
checking.
the music? You're supposed to play music.
There's that's what I'm looking at right now. There's supposed to be music, but somehow when I uploaded it, the music was gone. So I'm working on it.
okay.
We got 15 seconds. We're rolling. We're rolling.
It's not too late for any of us to leave right now. It's really not.
It really is. It is.
Okay. Okay. 2, 1, 0. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Beyond the Sums of Our Part. And guess what? We are live again. So tune in
Yay.
and get ready for our conversation. Episode 9 on hyper independence, focusing on emotional and physical.
Yes.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, since our guru, our sage of our group is not here today, Kirsty, I'm gonna take the lead on the whole spiritual guidance here of the deep breathing and setting our goal for our intention words. So together, come with me. Let's go ahead and bring it in. We're gonna go ahead and take a deep breath in, and then all right. We're gonna set our intentions words. All right. My intention word today is gonna be interesting.
Okay, okay. My
Mhm.
intention word for today is going to be transparency.
I like that.
Mm,
All right.
I like that.
My transformation, my word is going to be transformation.
Okay.
My word is gonna be healing.
Okay. And if you're watching, drop down in the comments what is your intention word for today's
Word for the
session?
day.
Yes.
Words.
All
All right.
right. Tristan, I thought you were going to say something. You're going to get it rolling?
No, I'm just excited.
Oh, well, that's fantastic.
Okay.
All right. So today's topic is, like we said, hyper independence. And last session, we focused on the social aspects of it in terms of how, when we're hyper independent, couldn't think of the word, we tend to push people away. And it's hard to make those social connections. And it's the benefits of having those people that, hate to say it, but those ride or die people that, will come to you and be like, hey, what can we do? How can I help you? Those people that make you feel supported, right? And so now we're transitioning into the physical and emotional aspects of hyper independence. So for me, when we first started on this topic, I was like, oh, I am definitely over this whole hyper independence thing. Yeah, no, it doesn't. I was there. I know there was a point in my time in my life where I was definitely hyper independent. And I was like, no, I'm pretty good now. But then in thinking about the emotional aspects of it, one of the things that comes up is this idea that, when you're hyper independent, you carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. When you're going through experiences, you're not really prone to being able to vocalize your needs, right? You tend to keep them inside and then other people can't help you. And so you end up going through life having to do everything on your own. And I was like, oh, yes, I definitely resonate with that. While I'm not hyper independent in the sense that I feel like I have to do everything on my own, but in a way I don't express my needs verbally. Like I still struggle with that. And I was like, oh yeah, that's definitely part of that hyper independence thing. So for me, that was like a aha type of moment. And in looking at it, it's this idea that, as adults, we go through life telling people everything is okay with this smile on our face, the masks that we wear, right? Because emotionally, we feel like we can't be vulnerable. Emotionally, we feel like whether we, have had past experiences or not, we feel like we can't trust people with our needs. I can't tell you that I need something because I can't trust that you're going to be able to meet my need or that you want to meet my need. And so I just bottle it all up inside. So for me, that was like a very interesting. Yeah.
I can think about a couple of experiences where that has really played into my life and it's been a hindrance. And it was more so that I didn't understand how to ask for help because I thought I was asking for help or I thought people could read my mind. Like I had these unhelpful way of, just being like, please, like inside I'm screaming, like, I'm so tired. Like, I wish somebody would just like rescue me and take me away from here. So I had like I had already like disconnected from my body at some point in my lifetime where things got really heavy. And so I was so just glad to be in the space that I was like, oh, I could finally breathe and not have to worry about anything. But, as you move and you go through life, like that follows you, it gets heavier and you're almost compelled to ask for help because you've exhausted all efforts to kind of like, do your best. And I think in those moments, the best help like just kind of fell into the lap where I was just like, oh, thank God, right? Like, but as a kid, like I remember being silenced and told like you don't ever ask for anything, like anything. And then it hurt to ask for something. And sometimes you didn't ask for anything. And it just, the things that were coming at you were not for you, was for other people, but it was traumatic for you. You felt the rift of everything. So asking for help was definitely not groomed or considered okay until you started. Not even with sports. Sports is hard to ask for help too because then you're kind of looked down on.
Yeah.
There are many areas where I was just kind of like, okay, I figured it out. It's not okay to ask for help. Until you got to college and then everybody was helpful. And that was a very hard transition too, because now I'm like, what is happening? Like, why is everybody acting so weird? And I don't trust it. I already don't even trust it, which is hard because you want help. You don't know how to ask for it. You don't know what it feels like because it feels strange. I remember wanting to jump out of my skin. Like it was so foreign to me that it was not acceptable. So it's really tough because a lot of kids go through that right now and they don't know how to ask for help and it comes out in unloving ways. And that's them asking for help in their particular language. So I learned that a lot, with the kiddos. Oh, and myself, so.
Okay. Shake hands. That's the silent clap. Well, for me, pretty much, piggybacking off of what Trish said, of course, asking for help shows a sign of weakness. Asking for help, just me personally, when I feel like if I ask for help, that gives you a reason to have something over me. Like, I did this for you, so you got to do this for me. I grew up nothing in life. I grew up as in there's nothing for free. So asking for help in my head, it was a price that went with it.
Yeah.
It was definitely hard to ask for help because growing up in the South, you kind of got parents that, like I say, I love my mom, I love my dad, but if they would have listened or just heard me, I think I'm good now, but I think a lot of these issues I'm having, everybody has issues. There's no one perfect out here. No, I'm just saying, but I will be able to teach my kids in a better way that I feel like I'm doing, breaking the cycle. And me asking for help really is a judgment. I feel judged if you ask for help. Like, I can't. Okay, so personal issue. I was in a dark place yesterday. Like, my mind was racing. And so it took a lot of strength, courage, and power for me to call and reach out. And I didn't, because I feel like me personally, when I ask for help, I'm bothering you, and I
Mhm.
don't want to bother nobody, and I don't want to be a burden to anyone.
Mhm.
And so it took a lot of courage for me to say, hey, like, Trish, I'm in a bad headspace today. Like, I'm really in a bad headspace. So I'm at work. I'm cleaning up a basement that don't even, cleaning up the basement just to get out of my head. So it messes with individuals differently.
Mhm.
However, that's, once again, it took a lot out of me, and I like was silent as we were chatting, because I felt, once again, I went back into that, oh, she's about to judge me because I'm telling her, hey, I need help, but I didn't ask for help. I've always said what I wanted or what I needed, but I never said, hey,
And just
can you
expected
help me?
somebody to offer to help in
Yeah. So
return.
and psychologically, it's different when you offer help than ask for help.
Right.
And see, I don't. When I ask for help, I just feel like I just get in
Vulnerable.
a whole nother space. Yeah. So I just don't ask for help. So you guess what? You can't hold nothing over my head. You can't say you helped me with anything. You can't say you did anything for me. So
Mhm.
no, I'm good.
Yeah,
Right.
You know.
that's valid.
Yeah. And I think, you brought up, the aspect about childhood and being raised in the South. And I was raised in the North, but we had that same mentality, growing up as a child. I felt like my emotional needs were not acceptable. I felt like I couldn't say, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling angry, I need a hug, I don't feel loved. Like I couldn't verbalize those things because they weren't acceptable, in my household. And I know that my parents loved me and they did the best they could with what they had
Mhm.
at the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it still wasn't a safe place for me. I didn't feel like it was a safe place for me to express my emotional needs. And so in my household, I learned that, if you're angry and you have these angry explosions, that is acceptable. But now as an adult, I look back on it and I'm seeing that that's not expressing emotional needs in a healthy manner, right?
Mhm.
And so now
Yes.
it's really
Yes.
figuring out like how to balance that, because I've had to learn that my emotional needs are valid. And even now when it comes to like adult relationships, being able to say to someone, when you ghost me, it makes me feel insecure, it makes me want to push you away because those are my emotional needs. Or being able to say to someone, when you walk in the house and you don't greet me, it makes me feel X, Y, and Z. Being able to be vulnerable and express my emotional needs and how things impact me emotionally was something that was very, very hard for me. And just like you said, Ebony, it was like I initially I didn't express my needs. I didn't ask for help, or I didn't say, this is what I need from you. I would just complain and hope that you could figure it out. Or I would, pull away and
Mhm.
hope that from me pulling away, you could figure out that there was something wrong and then come ask me, or be psychic and just know what was wrong and fix it. Right. And so, as I've grown and as I've matured, I've had to be able to take a step back and be objective and say, okay, when I pull away, what that doesn't solve anything. If anything, it just makes the other person pull away at all. It's like, two wrongs, don't make it right.
Yeah,
Trish,
don't
are
make
you
it right.
talking
Yeah.
to us?
Oh no.
Oh, okay, okay. I was like, because
Mm.
if you are, we can't hear you. But yeah, and so just being able to recognize that, my emotional needs are valid. And a lot of times what I hear, um, people like me, like I'm an empath, so I have a lot of emotions going on at one time. And a lot of times people will say, your emotions are too much. And so for me, that made it even more like, okay, well, I can't verbalize my needs. I really can't be open and honest about my emotional needs, because they not only will they not understand it, but it's too much. It's going to really burden them, right? So then I bottled it all up some more. So, being able to recognize my emotions are mine, and whatever it is that I need is completely okay. And if somebody else can't fulfill those emotional needs, then that's not on me. Then I just need to shift, or have multiple people or whatever. But it doesn't have to be blame or shame, just because whoever can't meet my emotional needs, I can still be vulnerable. It doesn't mean that I have to close off and keep to myself, which is, that hyper independence, that mindset that, everything is okay. I'm just going to shoulder this on my own. I'll endure life's challenges on my own. I don't want to burden other people. I don't want to rely on other people. I don't want to ask for help and support because whatever your because is, right? So, yeah.
I mean, that's just like how when you say, well, back in the day, don't you know how you used to, when you get a spanking and your mom said, don't cry, or I'm gonna give you something to cry for. I thought that's what you did.
You did that.
I thought that's what you did. I thought that's what you actually did. It hurt, and my way of showing you that it hurts is I'm crying. So you're telling me that it's not okay to cry after you done told my behind up.
Right.
So yeah, that was another issue, and it carried on into generations. But it's okay. It's okay after I spank your tail. I want you to cry, because if you don't cry, then it makes me feel like I don't have an impact on you. So by me not having an impact on you, that's gonna make me go in even harder. So show me some type of emotion that at least that you care or paying attention.
So crying is fulfilling your emotional needs to feel heard, recognized.
I heard this somewhere, I can't remember where. They're like, sometimes when the person is hitting you, they feel more uncomfortable or embarrassed of your reaction. They're more uncomfortable with your reaction than what they're doing to you.
Yeah.
That like ignites it and makes it worse.
Yeah.
Because they want you to be quiet.
You know what?
Out of their head where they can't even control. And this is no offense to anybody's parents or anything, just like statistic wise and like what's going on in the mind. They've already passed past the point of like being there. They're already in like subconscious of like just doing it. I remember that.
Trish, I gotta look at you I gotta look at you sideways. I gotta look at you sideways.
Okay. When you lose, I've always thought about, I never want to lose control of my kids, because I know that I'm capable of things as where background that I come from. So I've worked really hard to not lose my ever-loving mind, because you can go down that rabbit hole, and it's so hard to change that pattern from the family. I had to change so much, because I was like, I refuse to treat my kids the same way and be reactive in that manner, because I don't want a parent like that. And so I was petrified to be a parent. I'm not gonna lie, I was petrified to be a parent. I didn't want to carry on or inherit any of that stuff. But kids are kids, and when you're tired and exhausted and you're absolutely dragging and they want something and you're like, I can't even function right now, like that's a whole nother beast. But I just think about like how just the psychology part of it, when they were like, you pretty much lose control and there's no coming back. Because I worked with CPS, right? So I was used to getting kids that were going through a series of things. And so was trying to figure out, like, how can we not intervene with that? And that was just like, that was the natural reflex, like literally a natural reflex, which is not okay. What is it, Ebony? Ask me the question, what?
No, because I'm just thinking about how you saying they're embarrassed, because my mom used to say, well, it's going to hurt me more than it hurts you. No, it hurts me. Let me whoop you and you tell me how I feel. You know what I mean? Like,
but you can't compare hurts though, because her hurt is this sense of, you really can't. You cannot compare two people's trauma, two people's hurt. You can't.
Yeah.
Because for you, it's physical, but for her, it's emotional. I'm just telling you. I remember the one time my mom spanked me when I was a kid. I will never forget this, right? Because I got lots of whoopings in my lifetime. Half of them I don't remember. But the one time my mom spanked me, she hit me with a slipper. I don't even remember what I did. But she hit me with a slipper one time, wham, and it didn't even hurt. And she just burst out into tears and started apologizing. And I was just like, whoa, what is going on right now? I wasn't even fazed by it, but in that sense, it literally hurt her more than it hurt me because I just went on hopping and bopping with my life. So you can't compare.
We got a comment from Instagram from I am famous 365. He says, "Y'all please call my mama," and he's laughing. My mom doesn't play. Lots of laugh. Parenting is tough. Thankful for you guys working with families.
Yeah, thank you for the commentary. It's truth. Yeah. But you have to think also, coming from back to this place of hyper independence and talking about the emotionality of it. As parents, they're struggling with this hyper independence also. Having needs and having emotional things going on and not being able to verbalize them and feeling that they have to go through it on their own. So if you think back in our childhood, I don't know what my mom was going through. I don't know what my dad was going through. I don't know what they had placed on their shoulders. And I was just poking the bear, because it was just, that's what I did. Right.
It's definitely
Mike, what do you have to say?
What's happening?
Ebony, you funny. You crack me up though. you something serious, boy. I swear, my facial expression when you were talking. Look here. Hey, I'm not even finna. I'm gonna come back to you. I'm gonna come back to you in a minute. Anyway, I'm gonna go on to what Trish said from the beginning. The hyper independence aspect of it all. You guys hit valid points on it. It is very hard to basically emotionally deal with that because, like Ebony and all of you have said, you often feel guilty for asking for help. Like you feel ashamed. It makes you feel dirty to ask for help. And being raised in a Caribbean family, I'm Haitian, so it's very hard. You don't ask nobody for nothing.
Yeah.
You're not even supposed to tell them you got friends because they hit you with friends. When do you have friends? I don't give you friends. That thing with the accent and everything. They just oh my God. But it is very hard to disassociate. When I started coming into the realization that I am not good by myself, I need people. I need to ask people for help. And even though I'm okay with it, I'm so la-di-da with it, I still feel dirty. I still feel ashamed on the inside a little bit, but that's because of the whole conditioning, because it was like, you're not supposed to ask for help. You're supposed to be independent by yourself. Something happens, you just, all right, cool. You tough it out, you suck it up and you go, especially with men. We've been taught, you're gonna have to handle that. And when in relationships, that also plays a role where you got to be quiet about your grievances, your financial stress, your angers and stuff like that, because asking for help is definitely a sign of weakness. And the last thing you want to do as a man is to be considered weak and not capable of anything. So with that, it is just very hard to pretty much get into that, you know what I mean? But with the whole beating with the mama thing and the parents, that's just torture. I don't care what anybody tell me. That's just dead. That psychological. Look, I hear what you're saying, Jordan. They may be in their rights there. Oh no,
Oh no, I'm not justifying it. I was just saying.
Listen,
I completely agree.
Listen, okay. The beatings. Listen, it made I don't date. Listen, I'm 38 years old. I don't have children now because I'm afraid I'm gonna turn out like one of my parents, and I'm just like, nah, I'm okay, because the beatings was real, man. The beatings was real. Okay, you hear me? The beatings were real. It was getting hit with a shoe. I don't know if that's a Tuesday for me or Saturday, but I know it was one of them days. And it was quick. It was quick. The rest of them, you name it, it was like in the Haitian household, if they can find it, they can beat you with it. So it was extension cord, cable cord. It's pretty much all around. White America calls it child abuse. To us, that's just living. That's seriously
surviving another day.
And it was, man, listen, you don't ask for help. listen, I don't even like going to school because of it. Because to ask for help, I was met with, oh, oh my God, the support factor was not even there. It was not.
Yeah.
And so I'm lucky that I'm alive to survive the slave masters, rule
Oh,
of adult parenting in the Caribbean culture. Because boy, that's literally what it was. The beatings is nothing but what was passed down from the slave masters, where they felt like, because I'm not sure white people do it a lot, but I know in the black community, everybody can put their hands up, especially in the Haitian community. They can put their hands up and know for a fact they got beaten, and the beatings would be atrocious, and it would be for the most simplest things. But the one thing that I always let you know, you don't ask for help. You
yeah.
don't ask for help.
Yep,
The moment you ask
that
for
was
help,
it.
they got to question you. The moment you ask for
The
help, it,
questioning
it, 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 it's a it plays with your psyche. It plays with your psyche. It's very hard to kind of condition yourself out of that. So I'm surprised I'm even able to ask people for help, or because I'm very vocal about that now. Way before, I've actually been vocal about it for quite some time, for a long time actually. I think even in high school, I got better, where it was like, man, these whippings ain't gonna work no more.
Mhm.
Then they doubled up and what up the ante. Belts didn't work. They started using other items, but you
Mhm.
know, it was the independence, the emotional factor is a big trauma, because you asking anybody for, like you said, Jordan, um, having a multitude of emotional feelings and being an empath and things like that. Expressing yourself is not always welcome to everybody. People look at you
Yeah.
and judge you,
Yeah.
and thus
You're
it's
too
continuing.
emotional.
You know what I'm saying? It's continuing the cycle of basically saying you don't need nobody. Um, I firmly don't believe everybody needs somebody.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have gotten anywhere without the help of somebody, whether it's indirectly or directly. You need somebody, and the thing is about finding those people that understand that is like minded in that aspect to help you grow and guide yourself through life. And without it, you end up being alone and not happy. But
I
it
love
is.
that you touched on the loneliness aspect of it. What were you gonna say, Ebony, before I shift gears?
No, no, no. You go. You go. You go. You go.
Um,
I'm good.
you talk. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Mike, you talked before about the how lonely it is. You know, carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders and doing it by yourself. And I really want to, go deeper into that aspect of it, because that's a lot of people don't talk about that. Like, we see people who are hyper independent and they're all over social media talking about, I got this and I did this and I made this and me, 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 me. It's all about me. It's only me. But nobody ever talks about how lonely it is. Like, when you're in that space and you're going through whatever you're going through and you're hustling and you're doing, and you look around and there's nobody that you feel like you can depend on, it is such an isolating and exhausting feeling. Like, I can't stop, because if I stop, nobody else is going to carry the torch behind me. I can't keep going because I'm too tired. Like, how that sense of balance is just, it's tough.
No, it really is. It kind of like, as you were talking about it, it actually made an image in my mind of like basically putting people in the shoe. And I'm not sure if you know what that means, but in like jail prison term, it's pretty much you basically are in isolation. You're
Yeah.
in a box by yourself, a small box.
Yeah.
No physical,
Yeah.
no interaction whatsoever. And so in leading with the hyper independence, it's great that you can do things by yourself. It's great that you say you don't need anybody. I mean, that's fine, but in all actuality, you just pretty much creating another psychological issue for you later on down the line, because
Mm.
you're going to get into a relationship where that will no longer be acceptable.
Yeah.
That cannot be the norm. That cannot be something that's made to be healthy at all for
Right.
anybody. And it's trying to get yourself out of it mentally and emotionally is going to be a heck of a task for
Yeah.
all of us. It's people going in and the people suffering from that. Hyper independence is great to a certain degree, but then it's not. We've been taught for so long to be by yourself, but then you get into team sports, and like Trish said, even in team sports, you ain't asking for help. Even when you
Mm.
play basketball, you're not asking for help. When you play football, you're not asking for help, because your position is your position. Your job is your job in that role.
Right.
And if you don't
Right.
meet And if you don't meet up to that, and you don't play that part right, then everybody looks at you like you the problem.
Right.
And
Or you're at risk of going back to where you just came from, and you're like, I'm fearful of no way.
Right.
I'm gonna suck
Right.
it up and just take it, and I have no idea how to express myself. So now I'm suffering on top of that. But the scholarship is my life, so I have to. Like, there's no other option,
Right.
right? Because the
scholarship,
alternative is like, but and Mike, I like you said, because sometimes fear is good like that. Sometimes fear is good because it scares you to go backwards, so you have to go forward.
Right.
But you're not processing it the way that is healthy because you learned that all the non-helpful ways, the toxic ways of handling.
Right. Internalizing everything.
There is a different way. And Mike, I know you mentioned like physical abuse. Like, we have to be careful about um, the names that we give our pain, right? Parents are Caribbean. My parents are Caribbean. They're heavy-handed. Like, they control is like, it hurts. It hurts. There's a way to control people without hurting them. There's a
Right.
way of getting people to open up without shaming them and putting all their judgment onto other people, because that part is heavy to remove. Because
Right.
I found myself judging my own self. I'm okay with helping everybody else at some time, but for me, I couldn't give the same compassion to myself because
Right.
I didn't deserve it, or I didn't even think about myself as a human being,
Right.
because I've been taught not to, and it was beat out of me. And the isolation portion of it,
Right.
I think I made a habit from a very young going into hermit mode. I don't know if you guys know what that is. But like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of everybody. I'm done. I need to like
Just
lay
shutting
down
down.
and just like hone
Yeah.
down. But it was very isolating, and there's moments where I feel like you can go too far with it, and it can really make a very harsh impact on us when we have ruminating thoughts that are so negative and we can't pull ourselves out of it because we're
Right.
stuck. We're like a record replay stuck. And I would
Right.
get stuck. So I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? Take a train ride all the way down to the end of the train and come back, or go for a walk. And like, every time I went outside, it was something good. It was like the Caribbean man at the Caribbean store offered me oxtail and rice. I was like, oh my God, thank you. Like, something good always happened when you went outside. But the fear is going outside to be seen. You know how many people died in my city who like stepped on somebody's shoe, or that you looked at them funny? Like, they don't want to be seen. They have been taught not to be seen. They don't want to be seen, and it's confrontational, and it's embarrassing, and you see all of my faults. And when the truth, nobody sees any of that. It's just how we perceive ourselves, and and the judgment from other people that we're carrying, that's so heavy and just unreal.
Yeah.
It's hard to get out of. It's like, you have to. I've like been running my whole life. I'm going to be very honest with you. I did sports for a while, but I literally been running. I refused to go back to where I came from, as a child. But yet I was still trying to prove to my caregiver that I was worthy, because I was in abandonment, right? But in the same breath, I'm like, I have no interest in going back there. So it's like a real, like Mike said, like a psychological, like narcissistic way that you're inheriting these things that don't even belong to you, and you can't shed them until you actually go into isolation and just not deal with anybody of that category. You have to graduate onto something else, something completely different, to like change those ways, those patterns of thinking.
Right.
And that part is hard. That's difficult because it's a different type of isolation, right? It's new people, and then you have to worry about your own judgment on other people and work on that, because it's definitely a work in progress. But man, when you guys talk about that, I'm like, how many times have I gone to isolation?
Mm-hmm.
Every time I had a life transition, I'm like, yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
And I
Even
think I told Mike
trying
the other day, I was like, I take off my hair when I'm about to have a transition. I'm like, here
Yep.
we go. I'm already going to be by myself. By the time I come out, it'll be grown out already. So it's fine.
No, but it's true though. Like you were saying though, the whole being by yourself and everything else like that, it does play a role. It does play a big role in like the individual character development. And I love using that word because I'm all about watching films and movies and watching the individual character development so I can relate more to people. But the loneliness does it it's helpful, but then at the same point in time, it's scary that when you're in your own
Yeah.
mind, and if you're an overthinker like myself and everything else, even when you by yourself, you're still overthinking about everything else, and you're still
Yeah.
letting it run. And so it's crazy when this hyper independency thing is like it touches so many different areas and avenues where
Yeah.
it is it's mind boggling to think that being forced to be independent to the degree where you're starving or you're homeless, that you prefer not to ask anybody for help. You prefer not to cry if you lose a family member, or
Mhm.
you're unable to pay a bill and stuff like that. It tears you up on the inside to ask people for help because you've been conditioned
Right.
your entire life to be told that you got this on your own. You don't need nobody. When in
Right.
actuality, that ain't even the way how the animal kingdom even functions. But
Mhm.
we function like that, and everybody wonders why everybody is at some point in their life is suffering from some formality of depression. Because
Mhm.
it's it leads to that. It leads to that because I can't sit here and say I don't have the moments of feeling depressed from being the whole and super independent. I don't need anybody. I'm that guy. Nah, it plays a role. It weighs you down. It's a burden because it's good at the time. You look good in front of everybody. You look good on social media about it, but really, it breaks you down.
Mhm.
It tears you down on the inside. And I challenge anybody to say otherwise, because at the end of the
Right.
day, you can say you don't need nobody, but you do need somebody. That being alone by yourself makes you sad. You can have everything in the world you ever wanted, but when you
Mhm.
come to your house by yourself and you sitting in your car by yourself, of course you got friends you can go party and drink with and do all of that.
Right.
But they not there for you when you just want to talk. They not there for you when you just
Right.
when you like you can hire a mover to help you move, but that same mover ain't the friend where you're moving stuff. You guys are talking about things. You're unpacking your feelings, your
Right.
emotions.
Right.
You're basically having an emotional outlet, and that is what we need as people.
Mhm.
So to walk around saying I don't need anybody
Response.
is very hard.
It's a
And
biological response connection.
exactly, and to
Mhm.
not talk about issues that affect you, whether it be a death of the family or loss of employment or unhappiness in your life and your career choices, myself included. But it is these things that we need to talk about, and in
Yeah.
order for us to become better and to be healthier and to be stronger mentally, physically, and emotionally. And that was me on my rant because I was
Mhm.
grateful for such a very long time. Yeah, yeah. I
Oh,
mean, there's a lot of stuff I wanted to get at, but y'all was going in, and I was just like, "Oh, this is interesting."
what was
But
that?
Ebony,
One comment from Instagram. It says, I know someone who needs to hear this. Where can they find this? Is it on podcast? You guys can go to YouTube at
Yes.
Some of Her Parts. There's a link in my bio. And yeah.
It's on all the streaming platforms
Oh,
officially now. It's on I
except
think
for
it's on
iHeartRadio, I don't think we're on iHeartRadio.
I don't know. If you go to what's that streaming? It's on our Facebook page, the streaming link. What's it called?
Spotify. Are you on Spotify? Are we on Spotify?
We are on Spotify. The people who own
Okay.
Spotify, I can't remember what it's
Spotify,
called,
YouTube,
but
Facebook, Instagram.
we are nope, more than that, more than that. Hold on, let me pull it up.
We're more than that.
Um
We're like global.
we are. I just got like 10,000 emails this week saying, you're now on this, you're now on this, you're now on this. And I was like, yes. All right, let me pull it up. What is the thingy called?
Being on multiple platforms is pretty good. Sharing out.
Anchor. If you go onto Anchor, you can see all of the platforms that our podcast is available on. So, yes.
Awesome.
Breaker, Google Podcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Republic, Spotify. You can RSS feed thingy. We're everywhere. iTunes is in the works that we're still under review. So we're coming. We're coming.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right, Ebony, what did you have? You're on mute too.
Nah, she just doing the spirit finger waves. He's like that's her
Okay.
clapping. That's her clapping. Spirit fingers. Yeah, that's so cute. That's so cute. Stop it. Stop it. No, I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you. No, but yeah, this is a really good discussion to have on the whole independent, because now more than ever, I'm seeing it on social media. I'm seeing it on and just in person, people saying they don't
Yeah.
need nobody and they're
Yeah.
independent. I'm my own boss. I'm this, that, and the
Yeah.
third. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds nice because you're being taught to be a boss. And I don't know any boss that doesn't have a team behind them, making sure they remain the boss.
Being an entrepreneur is okay, just to clarify. Being your own boss in terms of
It's definitely
entrepreneurial,
okay.
yeah, that is okay. But when you have that mindset that I am the boss, I don't need all y'all, everybody else is beneath me, it's lonely at the top.
You know what
It
I
really
really
It's
is.
definitely, yeah.
service
Because I have a
you're part of a group. I think that's what we miss
Yes.
when we say that we're all by ourselves. I'm like, oh, you can't do nothing by yourself. But
Well,
and that's true.
I'm not gonna.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm one of those where, I mean, I'm all for being the boss bee. I'm all for being that. But at the end of the day, you do need a support team and someone behind you. You don't want to. You don't want to have that high, because I'm a strong believer. I do believe in, because the same people you see going up is the same people you're gonna see going down. So when you're up, you're lonely, and when you're gonna come down, you're gonna be lonely. So you got to take that in consideration as well. So, not saying, because I'm gonna be a boss one day. I'm speaking it in existence. But I will have a great team surrounding me, and I won't forget. And when people say they don't need nobody, they lying. They're definitely lying. Just personal experience for me, at one point in time I don't need anybody. But when I sat down and looked around and didn't have nobody, or didn't have that phone to pick up, I was lonely as crap. I really was. Now, it's a big difference. It's a difference from being lonely and being like, for me, at that time, my husband was working, and I at the time, and I'm just speaking a personal experience. Me and my best friend wasn't talking, but we were best friends, but we wasn't talking. But when I sat down at night and I wanted to call her and tell her about my messed up day, or wanted to just chit chat with her, I couldn't, because I felt like, oh, I didn't need her. I didn't need nobody, and I couldn't talk to nobody. And that's one of the things that I struggle with to this day. Because even though I have the support and my support team is phenomenal, I still have that in the back of my head. I don't need y'all. And it's real. It comes when you sitting daily, or when I'm in my head, that does come back to this front part of my brain and tell me, oh, you got this, and it's not you got this in a good way. You're about to isolate your support team because you're thinking that you don't need nobody. And that's bad mentally, physically, and emotionally. That's why some people look older than they look. We talking about physical, Yeah, we talking about when you have all that on you, it weighs you down. Yes, physically, to where it breaks your body down to where you have health issues, you're on medication. Just the simplest things, you can wake up with migraine headaches and it'll go left. So, I mean, when we talk about the hypertension, we need to really focus on, is this what you really mean? Or do we need to work on something? Because we got you. It's a support team here for you. And this is what I'm saying to my audience. If you know someone that's in that situation, have them contact us, because we have 3 amazing individuals that you can discuss, you can talk to. But that's what I want to say, because we are talking about the physical. We can't forget about how we look. I don't want to look 50 and I'm only 40, or I don't want to look 23 I don't want to be 23 and look 57.
You gotta
But you know
you gotta
what?
exfoliate and moisturize if that's the case. Rejuvenate the
No,
skin.
trust me,
Let me
Uh,
stop.
you
trust
can't
Let me
me.
stop.
exfoliate
Let me
stress.
stop. Let me stop. Let me
Yeah,
stop.
you
Let me
can't
stop.
exfoliate. You can't exfoliate stress. You can't wash it. You can't moisturize it.
Hey, you
You
see this
can't do none
glow?
of that when it's mental.
You see this glow right here? Let me stop. Let me stop. No,
Yes.
but
Yeah, so
now but to talk about the whole being the boss thing, it's like if you really look at it and you look at it from its fine to down to the core into the microscopic of it all, there's not a single boss in the world that came up on his own. Because your clientele, your customers are the people you need to get to where you are. And in a sense, that should also humble yourself. Ain't no boss going, whether you selling products, whether you selling bundles, whether you selling eyelashes, or you doing face manicure care, all of that crap. Whether you flipping a burger or you making a tons of different chains, you ain't going nowhere unless you have a support from
Right.
people outside of what you think your mind is. You cannot be a successful business person without some form of support, no matter what. There's not a billionaire on this planet that has made it to where they are unless you're coming from money, and even then that money had to be acquired from somebody putting in somebody getting support from a great deal of people, because you can't run a bit you can't have a business, you can't even run a business without the people buying what you're selling, and that's the people you need at the end of the day. So you're not by yourself. You could say you could look down on them all you want, then that's going to cost you later on.
Right.
And
Thank
people
you.
fail to realize that when they're on the how do you say, the high horse or whatever, and that whole, oh, I'm a boss, I don't need you, I don't need y'all POSs. And I'm like, yo, you're doing too much right now, calm down. But it's just crazy because they fail to realize is that you do need people, because you wouldn't have your business without somebody.
Right.
You wouldn't be the person that you are right now. Heck, you wouldn't even have the money that you have to buy the purse or the car you needed if it wasn't for the people that supported you in what you're doing.
Right.
So walking around saying you don't need nobody is false. It's a complete false statement. If that's the case, spend your own money on your own product and see how far you get.
So
Sorry.
that sounds like for me it's ego. Okay. It's the ego mind, right? It's part of her ego. That ego is like, it's a me, I'm stuck. It's madness, it's denial, hostility, it's shame, it's guilt, it's coldness, it's everything that you learn to be over time. It's the ego. When the ego, I mean, we could put the ego aside because it doesn't die. It just kind of like goes to the side and it shows up. For me, it shows up in moments that I'm triggered and I'm like, oh, they really want me to come out of my skin right now, right? Because I could be calm and collective.
That's
for
that
as long as
shadow.
right? Because I've learned to compartmentalize, but that ego only shows up when I've already mastered an area that I feel confident jumping into, but she's not there every single step of the way. She was there, a lot because I felt attacked a lot growing up. Like when you're like the boss and you're trying to be like, I'm bigger than what I am, which is fine. If you're driving it with your ego, it's not going anywhere. People don't gravitate to the ego; they gravitate to your soul. Until you can tap into that, like it's just not going to happen. And I love Ebony physical.
Yeah.
Chronic diseases is so number one problem. Heart disease, chronic disease is all lead to stress. COVID is stress. COVID is distress. When they say they die from COVID, they stress on the internal organs.
Yep.
Physically, you look fine. Internal organs are running a mile. They haven't stopped, so they're running into the ground. So chronic stress is literally not asking for help, sitting and festering it inside. So I can honestly say, like, for my family history, we have a lot of things going on. I have battled diabetes, and it is linked to stress. I don't stress externally anymore because I'm not reactive, and I kind of, I'm older now, so I kind of get it. But internally, I'll have like moments where things may be stressful, and I'm like, oh, it's okay, it's good, I got this. But internally, like my heart is like, taking a hit. Grief hits you like no other. It really shrinks your heart. Grief is like continuous. I haven't fully recovered from a lot of things, but it really does weigh heavily on your heart, your organs, your lungs, and it's just like this collective thing. So if you keep running the streets like you're the boss and you don't need nobody, like you're gonna be a very young person that doesn't get to see their business through because you're gonna be physically sick.
You also, I think Trish earlier on talked about the disconnection from our bodies that occurs when we're in this hyper independent state, and all the stress is pressing down on us. And for me, that's the biggest thing. When I find that I get into that place of hyper independence and I look around and I'm feeling whatever emotions are overwhelming me, and I feel like there's nobody there that I can depend on, I truly find myself completely disassociating. I go completely numb because it's like I have all these emotions, I don't know what to do with them, and if I just shut down completely emotionally, then I don't have to deal with it. And then I find myself bearing those emotions, bearing that weight, bearing that burden in my shoulders, and I'm walking around like this because I'm so tense and I'm so tight and my back is hurting, and all these physical ailments are creeping in on me because of not just the physical stress, but the emotional stress, that we're experiencing in the moment. So hyper independence isn't just, it doesn't just impact you socially. Yeah, it's definitely big time emotional. We talked mostly about that. And then physical as well. And people really need to be able to take a step back and say, am I operating in my highest vibration, my highest self? Am I being authentic? Or am I in this place of hyper independence? We need to figure out how to shift from a place of hyper independence to interdependence. It's okay to be able to depend on other people. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be emotional. There is no such thing as, too much emotions. Emotions are indicators. They tell you there is something causing you to be out of balance. Physical sensations in our body are indicators that something is out of balance within our bodies, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, mental, something is out of balance. And when we get into this place of hyper independence, we need to be able to take a step back and be objective and say, okay, what's going on in my body? What's going on in my mind? What's going on socially around me, right? And so with that being said, we are going to transition into our final thoughts. What do you all have for today?
I want to say that the thoughts that happen, thoughts create a feeling, and feeling create the behavior, like that cycle of like whatever we think makes us feel a certain way. And because we feel this way, we're going to now have these reactions to it that we've grown over time to do. And when we have those thoughts, the only thing that we should know that we're not our thoughts. And when we have an emotion like anger, rage, just tired, exhausted, they're called panic attacks. I'm going to be really honest. Those are called panic attacks. When you go into a moment where you get so angry that you like disconnect, that is also anxiety. These things have to be, and it's nothing that everybody has some level of each of these things depending on their experiences growing up. When we look at adverse childhood experiences, if you go all the way back and you count all your experience, you have all of these things because you've been conditioned to think about, and we minimize it because we don't want to be labeled, but it's important to understand what's happening. And then behavioral health is managing emotions. It doesn't go away. It just becomes manageable. You become more comfortable, and then you can release the judgment on yourself so that you can deal with yourself in the way that you deserved or should have been dealt with when you were a child. That's a big thing. And it's hard to come through, but the process looks exactly like what we're talking about. It's isolating. You can deal with these thoughts. And if you can find trusted people to talk to release those healthy and not get into your head, that will give you some more years on your life from the chronicness that is coming forth. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
I've done the work so I can say it. So, yeah.
Well, I took a lot from it because I'm speaking about personal experiences. I'm still learning, let me say. I'm definitely still learning. That's all I got. That's all I got. I'm still learning. I'm a work in progress.
Thank you, Ebony.
That you are, darling. That
We
you are.
honor your work in progress,
Yeah, you still. Okay. That's
Mike.
Jordan. Well, ladies first. Come on, you know
Oh my
better.
goodness. All right. Well, for me, I appreciated I appreciated this chat and the vulnerability that came with it. And the challenge that I have for our audience, our viewers, for ourselves, as we go throughout this week is, if you find yourself being in a place of hyper independence, I challenge you to be an objective observer. Take that step back. And when you find yourself charging forward headfirst, ask yourself, tune into your physical body, your emotional body, your social, connections, tune in to yourself and ask yourself, emotionally, physically, what needs do I have that aren't being met, that are causing me to charge headfirst, like I'm the only person, in the world. I challenge you all this week to really tune into yourselves, and just start bringing awareness to hyper independence. We don't all have to be hyper independent. There are people out there that we can depend on. And I know it's a really hard thing to be vulnerable, but it's worth it.
That is a good point. You ladies proved a great, valid point. On that note, it's kind of hard to piggyback on it. I
I
can
give you the
definitely piggyback on.
opportunity.
I definitely can piggyback on. Nah, but yeah, what the challenge is, like Jordan said, step back, take a look at yourself and your surroundings, and then reevaluate. The one thing I noticed that we all have as people is the fear of trusting people, because then you've been hurt in the past, and then that trust allows you to create more hyper independence and the distrusting people. So break through that. Unfortunately, you're gonna come across some people that ain't trustworthy, and I'm sorry to say that's the part of life. But in order for you to find somebody that's your ride or die, you gotta find some people that ain't worthy of trust. So once you find those people and you understand the kind of characteristic that is out there for people not to be trusted, that'll lead you to your ride or die. And they would be the person that'll be your peace of mind and able to allow you to express yourself the way you need to. It doesn't have to be your partner. It doesn't have to be a family member. It can just be it can be a complete different stranger, but they allowed you that opportunity to be not so hyper independent. They allow you to be human and understand that we all have a pack mentality, and we need to be in a pack. We need people. We need each other to grow. We need each other to build. So nobody's building anything by themselves. Not even clothing is done by themselves. Not even cars or shoes. Everybody's doing something together. So just
And you mentioned finding, trusting people, but also finding trust in yourself so that you can find those trusting people, so that when they come around, you trust your judgment enough to be able to say this person is safe and believe
that
it.
part. That part. And don't be afraid. I suffer from this as well, where I second guess myself and I doubt myself. So try to basically get yourself out of that and understand that you're gonna make decisions and you're gonna make some bad ones, but at the end of the day, it's a learning curve. You just gotta keep trying to do better and be
Yeah.
better about it. All
Yeah.
right, that's it for me though.
Thank you, everyone, for your input. Thank you for joining us on our episode 9. As always, feel free to check us out on, oh, hey, Damon. As always, feel free to check us out on Facebook, on YouTube, on Spotify, on Instagram, on all the social medias. We love to see comments. We love to interact with you all. So please, now that we're doing lives every Wednesday, jump in here, join the conversation. We really want to engage with you all. We really want to hear your input. And if you agree, if you disagree, if it makes you uncomfortable, let's talk about it. That's what we're here for, right? So thank you for joining us on Beyond the Sum of Our Parts. And until next week, Wednesday, we'll see you all later. Bye.
Bye.